Welcome to Layer of the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, a review of the Martin Popoff Blue Oyster cult book, Agents of Fortune. I have this on my iPad. You can see the awesome cover there. If you are a fan of Blue Oyster cult, I cannot recommend this book enough to you. Martin Popoff is the predominant author on all things heavy metal. He has a ton of books out on the subject, whether it be about specific bands like this book or just general eras of heavy metal and hard rock or review style books. He is the authority on heavy metal. And Martin is a big Blue Oyster Cult fan, and it shows through on this book. Because like I said, if you're a Blue Oyster Cult fan, you have to have this. It covers all the eras of the band. It covers every era in detail. And what I appreciate about Martin's writing in this book in particular, he doesn't spend too much time on the early part of the band. Often, what I mean by that is the pre-music part of the band. He gets right to the origins of the band. Too often when I'm reading biographies on bands, it starts off with telling you about where the singer went to grade school and what sports he played when he was 6 years old. And you're sitting there like, when are we going to get to the music and to the band? And Martin doesn't do that. And when he gets into it, it's all about the music. It's about the albums. He likes to get into the albums, talk about the times, events surrounding the albums, but getting into the songs and really analyzing the music. And for me, that's what it's about. It's not, this book is not it doesn't have any scandals or tell-alls or crazy behind the scenes partying stories, because that's not really what I want to read. I want to read about Blue Oyster Cult. I want to know about the albums. I want to know about the songs. Martin has a long history as a metal journalist, reaches into his archives for the quotes in the interviews. So there's quotes from all the guys in the band. It really fills out the timeline. It fills out the history of all the albums. And it does it in a way that's really insightful. Obvious that Martin is passionate about the subject. And I thought I knew a lot about Blue Oyster Cult, but I was just learning things with every page turn, it seemed. So it is an excellent book. And I also like the fact that too often I'll read biographies and they a book on a band and it skips over the era of the band that is not as popular. So in the case of Blue Oyster Cult, their big era would be the Agents of Fortune with Don't Fear the Reaper and Fire of Unknown Origin era. And then after that, when the band's fortunes dropped some, a typical book would have skimmed over that era, but that's not the case with this. There's just as much attention paid to every era of the band, and that later era, the post Fire of Unknown Origin, after Albert Bouchard left the band. So I appreciate that, because in a lot of ways, those are kind of I already know this story. I've heard the story of Don't Fear the Reaper, how that was written and all that. And I want to know about the more obscure things. I want to know about Imaginos and Club Ninja and all that stuff that nobody ever really talks about. Well, Martin goes in depth on every era of the band, every album. And there is mention of the touring when it's important, like maybe who they toured with or the scale of the tour, but it doesn't get bogged down with stories about, not related to the music, stories about partying or or anything like that. Like I said, it doesn't get scandalous or any real behind the scenes type stuff. He sticks to the music, he sticks to the albums. So that's why for me it's a fantastic book. If you're a Blue Oyster Cult fan, I highly recommend it. I have it downloaded it from Amazon for my iPad, but I know you can get physical copies of it. I'm going to leave a note in the description down below for Martin's website. Like I mentioned earlier, Martin is my favorite author on heavy metal. He is the voice, the writer when it comes to metal. You can also find Martin. He has a podcast. He's appearing on YouTube all the time. So he's very, very knowledgeable on the subject. So I applaud him for such a well-written book on a band that deserves this kind of attention, Blue Oyster Cult. They're a very interesting band, very interesting lyrics, very interesting album concepts. They had a lot of people that came in and out as writers with the band. Their manager, Sandy Pearlman, and just the whole history of how the band was created. And they're a very interesting band, and Martin does a great job of highlighting that and bringing that out in this book. So, Agents of Fortune, the Blue Oyster Cult story by Martin Popoff. Check it out. It's a great read. All right, thank you for watching the video. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you've read this book, if you're a Blue Oyster Cult fan, what you thought of it. If you haven't read it, go out and check it out. And until we see you next time, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.